Hi everyone, Wismeril here. In this video I want to talk about the build that I'm going to play tonight when the Abattoir of Zir finally get released. I've been theory crafting a lot about what I'm going to play tonight, and I want to share with you guys the 3 builds that I came up with, and I'm going to start with speed farming. Why? Because guess what? When the patch hits live and after you complete your first Abattoir of Zir, the tier 1 of the Abattoir of Zir, what you're going to be doing is to speed farm easy tiers of the Abattoir of Zir in order to level up your glyph. This is what you're going to be spending your first days on if you want to level up the glyph to level 50, 100, maybe 150, but I doubt it. That's the first thing we'll be looking to be doing. So I came up with the most optimal way to do that. I will give you guys 2 versions, the ones that's using Unix and the one that is not. They are very similar anyway. And there's also the push variant of the build that might change a lot, because for now I don't know what's the multiplier for the hit points pool of the monsters from one tier to the other. Is it 1.17 like it was in Diablo 3? Is it any other value? Based on the information I find out while playing the build, I'm going to update the push variant and also maybe slightly change those 2 variants. Now let's start with the unique version of speed farming. So you'll notice there are 2 different variants in the Paragon points, because when you're going to do your first run, you're not going to have the Tears of Blood, so you will want to select variant number 2, which is not including the Tears of Blood. It has an additional multiplier here on the Frigid Fate board, and it's using the Flame Feeder glyph. And once you use this build here, it doesn't matter if you have the Unix or not, you're going to be running the same Paragon board setup. Once you run this and complete tier 1 of the Abattoir of Zir, the Tears of Blood glyph is going to drop, and you're going to slightly change your build. You're going to remove that board over here, remove points up to there, and reallocate those points into the Burning Instinct table, because this is where we're going to socket our Tears of Blood glyph. More on that later. Now, first let's start with the build itself. It's a very tanky build. Why is it a very tanky build? Because in the Abattoir of Zir, if you die just once, your run is over. You have lost all the powder you have used to craft the key. You are not getting the glyph XP at the end of the level, and you are not getting the free key to the next tier. It hurts a lot to die. It's going to make you use way more glyph powder than you should. So really the number 1 consideration when you venture in the Abattoir of Zir, especially when your glyph is just level 1, is not dying. And how do we achieve not dying? We play a very tanky build. It is very tanky for a few reasons. First, it's very high on damage reduction. On Shaco, you get 20% damage reduction. Thanks to the ever-living legendary power, you get 25% damage reduction. And on the amulets, we are playing the Mage Lord power, which gives us 40% damage reduction. 40 is a huge number. You just need to have 3 enemies in melee range to benefit from this 40% damage reduction. This is huge, and you really want that. On top of that, on top of all the damage reduction we get, also from playing VR Mastery, from playing the Electrocution, from going all in into Align the Element, Mana Shield Protection, we are really getting a lot of damage reduction. We are getting rolls on the chest armor pants, and also mind the amulets. This is like a temporary amulet. This is an amulet you want to be running until you reach level 50, 100 or 150 on this glyph, which is going to provide a lot of damage reduction. And once it does, you will swap the amulet. But first, in order to start, this is the amulet I'm gonna be running. It has damage reduction from distant and close enemies as affixes on the amulet. You will find those affixes on the chest armor and pants, on top of damage reduction from burning enemies here and in the Paragon board. Damage reduction will really mitigate a lot the damage you are receiving, because everything else is capped out. That's the only thing you can't cap out. There is no limit to the amount of damage reduction you can stack on a character. It just has diminishing returns. That's all there is to it. But for the rest, it is capped out. So we are, of course, capping out our resistances. Fire to 78%, 70% plus we're running the Enchanter glyph. So fire and lightning will cap out at 75. And in the skill tree, we are putting 3 points in warding. So our maximum fire resistance will be 78, which we achieve. Outside of in combat, lightning will be 78, cold will be 73, poison 73, shadow 73. We are capping out our armor during combat. This is important to note and to remember. Do not flee. Fight. If you fight, you're going to keep your disobedience stacked, and by doing so, you're going to have more than 14,000 armor, which is overkill, but maybe you don't have the perfect gear, so maybe you're going to have between 13,500 to 14,000 armor, which is in what I expect monsters to be in tier 25 of the Abattoir of Zir by being level 160. Therefore, at this level, you need close to 14,000 armor in order to cap out your physical damage reduction up to 85%. On tier 25, having 14,000 armor will cap you out at 85% damage reduction on physical damage, and this is very important. It will be overkill in the early levels, but it's not overkill when you are outside of combat, because your disobedience is not stacked. As soon as you start the fight and gain some stacks, you will be capped out on the armor. So you see, we're capping out on resistance. Armor, we have a very decent HP pool with 15,000 life. It depends on the roll over here, because this one always roll perfect. So you can have, I would say, around 15,000, depending on how much you roll over there, which is very decent. And we do have sustain thanks to the protection node and all those cooldowns. It's really gonna help. And the ice armor, we have sustain. So we're very tanky. Resistances capped out, armor capped out. HP pool very good, sustain very good thanks to ice armor and protection, and damage reduction I did stack a hell lot of it, because once again the last thing you want is to die. From the Paragon board I made choices where I would get all the damage reduction glyphs, such as reinforced for 15% damage reduction while you have a barrier, and territorial for 15% damage reduction against close enemies. This is very important. Dying sucks, will consume time, will consume powder. You don't want that to happen. And by running this exact build that I'm going to run tonight, this is not going to happen. I have to highlight that the reason why I put the Tears of Blood glyph inside the Burning Instinct board, there's a reason to it, because if you want purely damage, you would insert it in the Static Surge board. It's going to give you a multiplier of up to, I think, 4,300 plus, which is huge. In here, you only get 4,000 instead of 4,300 plus, but the thing that we're focusing on is the second part of the Tears of Blood, where it grants 250% bonus to all rare nodes within range. So that one is just additive damage and intelligence. This one is intelligence and, look at that, damage reduction from burning enemies, and a lot of it. Up to 35% if you ever max out your Tears of Blood to level 200. This is huge, 30 on a single source. Like, damage reduction has diminishing returns, and having like small numbers all together is a lot worse than having less but higher numbers. Don't know if you understand where I want the point I want to touch on. Having a huge number is going to help, tremendously help. by just having 40% here, that's a huge damage mitigation. Having a lot of those 2% here, 2% there, 2% here, it's not doing much in the grand scheme of things, but having a 40% here and later a 35% over there is huge. Actually, the reason why I did that is once you level up your glyph to a decent amount of damage reduction from burning enemies, I don't know, maybe 25 or 30%, that's the time you want to change your amulet. You want to change from this amulet giving you 40% damage reduction and having damage reduction rolls to an offensive amulet like this one. You give up 40% damage reduction, but hey, guess what? It's being replaced by 35% over there. So it'll be more or less the same in the grand scheme of things. But you get a 43% damage multiplier and offensive stats such as ranks to the Devouring Blaze, ranks to all mastery skills, and a multiplier, a percentage multiplier on your intelligence. So this is what you'll be looking to do, but that's only when you will have a decent level on your Tears of Blood, right? So that's why I went for that choice that is like very defensive on the setup, Paragon board setup. Oh, quick note over here while I think about this. This enchantment master over there, those 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points, you don't necessarily have to grab it. You have to look at how much mana cost reduction you have, and given this, you have to double check how many ball lightnings you have to cast for a chain lightning to form. If you need to cast 3, if 3 ball lightnings equal little bit more than 100 mana, then you don't need that, because having 100 mana on the chain lightning enchantment is enough. But if you have too much, not too much, but you have decent mana cost reduction and casting 3 ball lightnings equals 90 mana spent, then you want to have the enchantment master so that 3 cast, i.e. spending 90 mana, will trigger chain lightning instead of 4 casts of ball lightning. But those are just details, but just to show you how much attention I pay to details. All resistance are capped based on your Paragon board and not on your gear. It allows you to play with skulls over there and get away with not having a single resistance roll on your gear. So this is very, very optimized once again. What else can I say about the Paragon board? Oh yes, we are playing this execute non-elite, injured non-elite enemies. So when they are below 35% life, we have a chance, 50% chance on a lucky hit to execute them. And this is huge for both speed farming and pushing, especially for pushing, but it also matters when you are speed farming. That board over here is the only pure offensive board and glyph that we have, because it's the highest additive damage number that we can find, and everything else is offensive and defensive at the same time. A quick word on the maximum mana. If we are running the Shaco version, we don't have a max mana roll on our helm. We only have 1 roll over here on a single ring. So we need more of that in order to be capped at 100% critical strike chance, because if you're running the Tal Rasha iridescent loop, it doesn't have critical strike chance, right? So you only have a few rolls of crit chance actually, and you won't have perfect rolls. So you will realistically have 30% critical strike chance. Well, guess what? Plus 40% when you're max mana and always casting skills at more than 100 mana. So 40 plus 30 is 70. And with those boots, 70 plus 30 is 100. So every single cast of ball lightning, as long as you evade every 3 seconds in order to get the 75% movement speed, that's going to add to the 25% that you want to have on those boots. That's going to be maxing out your movement speed at 200%. And you're going to get 30% crit chance here, 40 here, and 30 here, and that's 100%. Beautiful, isn't it? That's for the maximum mana. If you're playing the non-Shaco version, well, you're lucky you have a max mana roll over there. I don't think I changed... yeah, you are just going to be playing with more mana. But it's best in slot to have the Shaco, but if you don't have it, just use this helm over there, and you're going to be very fine, okay? You are unlimited mana thanks to the Chain Lightning enchantment, the Static Surge legendary power, and running the recharging legendary power on your ring. This is how you achieve maximum mana, like you will be full mana all the time. And also by collecting, of course, those crackling energies. Well, you know the story, you've probably been playing this build for a long time. And yeah, what I wanted to mention was you do run 3 points in devastation in order to be very careful to have as much max mana as you can have. So what else can I tell you about the build? I think I introduced pretty much everything. Yeah, we are not running Flame Shield, we are running Teleport and Ice Armor in the speed farming version. It's only in the push version that we won't be running the Teleport because, well, we're pushing Abattoirs of Zir. We need both Flame Shield and Ice Armor on top of our conjuration spells. But for speed farming, we do want the Teleport for the added mobility, obviously. We are running those two conjuration spells. This one is to proc ice damage in order to have 4 stacks, i.e. 60% damage multiplier on the Tal Rasha iridescent loop. And we're running this one because it's a defensive one, like it's going to stun enemies around. You're going to manually cast a few of them and automatically cast a lot of them with unstable currents. And this is doing a lot for your survivability. Don't underestimate it. And it also enables a few other things with crowd control. What else is there to say? That's about it. Yeah. In the speed farming version, we are running Vir's Mastery, even though it is bugged. The 15% damage multiplier doesn't work. No one tested the damage reduction one. You take 20% less damage, but everyone, like, we expect it to work. But hey, I'm not here to fix Blizzard's bug, so this is bugged. And in the push version, well, we're using Essus Ferocity because Essus Ferocity is also bugged. It's not only fire, critical strike damage that have a multiplier, it's also lightning. It's every type of damage that you do with the Sorcerer, so this is bugged. And unless they change it, well, this is the setup that we are going to be running. Anyway, for the speed farming, we are running that version. Let's have a quick word on the Vamp Power. So we are running the usual suspects. Prey on the Weak, which is not a multiplier. The 16% over here is additive, not multiplicative, but it enables us to have enemies vulnerable. That's a 1.2 damage multiplier and very synergistic with a few things in our build. So we do want to run that, even though the 16% are additive. Ravenous, no-brainer. That's the best Vampiric power in the whole game at the moment. Accursed Touch is a lot better in my book than Metamorphosis, because we don't have to be dashing around all the time. It's going to apply automatically. You don't have to think about it. This one is a lot better in my book. Infection is here to trigger some poison damage in order to have the 4th stack of Tal Rasha iridescent loop, and it deals decent damage because guess what? We are really we are scaling non-physical damage. So those 70% scale very well in what we are doing. And in the speed farming version, I chose to play Resilience because once again, dying sucks, like real hard. So you don't want to die. This is protection. Like if you take a hit that's leaving you at 30% life, this ensures that the next hit you're going to take is not going to kill you. This is very strong. Don't underestimate the power of Resilience. And in the push version, we'll only be changing this Vampiric power to this one, which is huge. In my opinion, this one is busted. This one is going to execute elites under 35% hit points if they are crowd control while being injured. This is huge. You're going to bypass the remaining 35% life of all trash mobs. This is doing a lot for us. Remember, Ball Lightning is a single target spell. It's not an area of effect spell. Every tick hits a single enemy. So bypassing the remaining 35% life on enemies is allowing ball lightning to hit the other enemies. So it's doing a lot for us, both on the ball lightning single target front and also on bypassing just 35% basically of every non-elite monster. Not the boss, not the elites, but everything else. It's huge, it's big. This is very big. And on top of that, cherry on the cake, there's a damage multiplier on crowd-controlled enemies. Very, very good in my book. And we are pairing it, like I said, with the lucky hit, chance to execute injured non-elites. You want to have that on your weapon, and you want to have that in your Paragon board. I'm running it in both. In my opinion, it's more useful in the pushing variant than in the speed farming, but it comes into play in the speed farming version. Because what you'll be looking to do is when the patch hits live, you're going to craft your first key for a tier 1 Abattoir of Zir, and once you complete the tier 1, you're going to be getting this key, and you're going to get the key to tier 2. The developers confirm that. So you finish tier 1 and you get for free the key to the second level. That's why you don't want to be dying. Then you plug the tier 2 key, you complete tier 2 of the Abattoir, and you get tier 3 key, right? This continues on and on and on. If you die, it's over. You have to craft a new key. If you don't die, so what I'll be doing is in a few hours, I will plug a tier 1 key, and I'm going to be running this setup over here. I do have a Shaco, I do have what I need. And I'll be doing this. I'll be checking how long it takes for me to clear a tier 1. Let's say it takes between 45 seconds and a minute and 15 seconds. I'll be doing tier 1, tier 2, tier 3. Maybe when I do tier 4, I realize, hey, it now takes 2 minutes to clear a tier 4 because enemies have more HP. So, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to complete tier 4. I'm going to store my tier 5 key. I'm going to craft a new tier 1 key, and I'm going to run tier 1 into tier 2 into tier 3, and I'm going to store tier 4 because 1, 2, and 3 are done under a minute and 15 seconds. And I'm going to do that 50 times. 50 times tier 1 into tier 2 into tier 3 and store 50 tier 4 keys. By doing that, I will level up very fast my Tears of Blood glyph. It's going to scale the multiplier up there. And by scaling this multiplier, when I resume to a tier 4 key, I'm going to plug it, and having this multiplier having a higher value, then my tier 4 run is going to take less than 1 minute and 15 seconds because I do have more damage. And maybe I can do 4, 5, and 6, and then 7 is the same. Then I'm over 2 minutes, and I don't want to do that anymore. I'm going to take my 50 keys of tier 4 and run them because I'll be running them between 45 seconds and a minute and 15 seconds. And doing that, I will power up, I will level up my glyph. And I'm going to do that over and over again in order to speed farm. This is how I'm going, and you should do speed farming in the Abattoir of Zir, right? And by the time, no matter, like maybe you have a level 100 Tears of Blood and you're tackling on keys level 15, let's say, and then it doesn't work the same. Like the experience you put into the glyph doesn't really help a lot in the timing, in the completion timing of the Abattoir. Well, guess what? That's the time you need to switch to the push variant where you're sacrificing damage reduction and you're moving the glyph to somewhere where it deals a lot more damage, and this is how you will be continuing your journey to push the Abattoirs of Zir. So that's how I'm going to do it, and that's how I recommend you guys do it also. Last word on the Aarian Spear of Lycander. So the way, I don't have this. I'll be doing a few more Duriel runs in order to hopefully get it. If you do have it, you're in luck. In my book, you only need a Harlequin's Crest and this staff, and you're good to go for the Abattoir of Zir. The way you want to use it is you start the run having this dagger and offhand over there. And once you attack an elite, once the elite is close to dying, like it has less than 5% life remaining, hot swap your gear. It seems like you can swap your gear during an Abattoir of Zir. So swap it to the Aarian, then kill the elite. You're going to trigger a random shrine. If that shrine is either the zapping one, what's it called again? Conduit, or artillery or demolition, I think the one that explodes around you, keep this staff equipped and wait for 20 seconds. I mean, use those 20 seconds of power to kill things around you. And when the shrine effect goes off, switch back to your dagger and to the offhand. And continue your journey and do it again. If the power you have is something else than those 3 powers, then immediately switch back to the dagger and to the offhand and continue damaging monsters. And I would do that strategy for both speed farming and pushing. For speed farming, it's going to push, maybe you would stop normally at tier 4, but by doing that, you can go to tier 6 and still clear each abattoir in less than 1 minute and 15 seconds. Then that's the way to go. It's going to give you a lot more power, a lot more juice on the way you're going to clear your Abattoirs of Zir. And if you don't have them, just run this setup. No helm, no unique stuff, and just run this, which is very, very similar. But the best in slots, the most optimized build I can come up with, and the one I'm going to be playing, well, if I do get my hands on that, but if I don't, that's fine. I'll be running this and I'll be putting as much experience, glyph experience into the Tears of Blood, and I'll be fine. And I'll just continue farming Duriel here and there to try and get my hands on this, because this will be needed for pushing, and you'll need, spoiler alert, I really think you'll be needing to do some fishing in your runs. But hey, look at the past videos I made about fishing, about the amount of armor you need, about the execute injured non-elites. I will explain, and the other uniques, I will explain everything you need to know. Anyway guys, this was Wismeril. I hope you have a great time in the Abattoirs of Zir. I'm going to start a stream now because I'll be doing a few more Duriel runs in order to get my hands on that. And once the patch hits live, I'm going to be running my first Abattoir of Zir. So if you want to drop by the stream, just come and say hi. Don't be shy. I'll be speaking. I speak the language that is being spoken to me. So in the chat, if people speak in French, I will speak in French. But if you do speak in English, I'll entertain you in English. No worries. So don't be shy, drop by the stream. And even if I'm speaking in French, just talk to me in English in the chat and I'll be talking back to you in English. Don't be shy, come say hi, and let's have a great time. Anyway, I'm super excited to get it started. I hope you are too. And there's going to be a lot of updates on this very specific, those builds over there, as I get more intel on how things work inside the Abattoir of Zir, the scaling of things, the multiplier that I identify here and there. I'm going to update that and post more videos on the channel. So make sure to subscribe and hit the bell if you want to be alerted when there's a new input that I think you need to look at. This was Wismeril signing off. You guys have a great day.